Hello there, singing friends. Welcome back to my channel. It's Mickey here, your friendly neighborhood singing coach. I want to wish a very special belated birthday to Michael German. I was going to post this video on his actual birthday, but then I got food poisoning, so that kind of put a girder in front of my plans. Derailed my plans, as you could say. It was quite unpleasant. But today is Monday, the 25th, and the kids go back to school on Wednesday. So, you know, it's a very busy time of year. There's a lot of gearing up for that and getting back on schedule, getting people to wake up a little bit earlier. And it's both exciting and nerve-wracking. And yeah, we're looking forward to a really good year. I have two now in middle school, and my third son is finishing elementary. So it's gonna be a big year. He's a senior. Today's reaction is going to be to Mike's favorite band, Earth Drive, and I've done a few videos on them recently. So if you want to listen to more of their stuff, you can go back to my last two, I believe, in a row. So this song is called The Science of Pranayama. And the link that Mike sent me was incorrect. So I think I found the right version. Hopefully I did. But this is from their album Helix Nebula. He was very kind to include the lyrics. I will read them to you first. They are: I haven't spoken, haven't shared all my thoughts. I didn't trust my own void, emptiness. I change my spirit in life. I build this hollow in time. Die, try to find your lonely spirit in life. Die, try to find your lonely spirit in life. I have broken my desire for hope, of hope. I slowly go to a place of ghosts. Die, try to find your lonely spirit in life. Find your meaning of life. So again, this is very poetic and very abstract, so I think it could be interpreted a bunch of different ways. So pranayama, I think, is breath, right, in the practice of yoga. And I think doing breath work can be very powerful for a number of things and can help you with internal explorations of your own psychology and being, or external contemplation of the universe. This overall feels like a very negative song, meaning like it's a little bit coming from a depressing place or a depressed place, right? It says, you haven't shared your thoughts because you don't trust your own void, emptiness, right? So if you think about the void inside and how we're all really alone, right? Build a hollow in time, again, that sense of emptiness. And then die, try to find your lonely spirit in life. It's like, it makes me think like if you were to pass away and then come back and try to find yourself as a ghost from the afterlife, right? Like you're a ghost coming back to find yourself in life. Your hope is gone, you're broken, you have no more desire, you're going to a place of ghosts, at least emotionally, right? And then try to find your lonely spirit in life, find your meaning of life. So it makes me think about like, if you were to be so lonely in life that you almost like gave up on life, and if you actually like spiritually died, right? But then you try to find yourself again from the other side and help yourself find again the meaning of life or the motivation to live. So I don't know, that's my interpretation, but I think one of the really nice things about their lyrics is you can interpret them multiple ways. So I would love to hear what you guys think, if you have a different reading of it. And yeah, let's listen to it. I'm excited because I really like this band. I think they're really interesting and unique. So let's check it out. So the thing that strikes me about this so far, it's very much in line with the other stuff that I've heard from them. The music is so heavy, right? So if you're a fan of heavy music, as I am, I really like that. And I think the drums are really, really well executed. That's Sebastião on drums, and he always does an excellent job. In terms of her singing, Sarah Antunius, she is using a very light, disconnected tone. So I know I use a lot of like terms and I want to start explaining them more in case you want to try applying them in your own singing. But basically you have two vocal folds in your voice box, right? And when you bring them together and like zip them up, you zip out the breathy sound in your voice. So you have a very connected sound, like ah. If your vocal folds are touching more lightly, then you hear that breathiness, the air passing between your vocal folds. Ah. And I personally find this way of singing more difficult than singing with adducted, zipped up vocal folds. I think it's more difficult to control, to use those light dynamics. And I think one of the common misconceptions with singers is they'll blow a lot of air, especially when they're using a breathy tone, and that can dry out your vocal folds really quickly. You actually don't need a lot of air to produce a lot of sound. So you can practice this by blowing a lot of air and seeing what happens, right? If you do, it's very hard to support that sound because you're gonna exhale all of your fuel, your breath very quickly. So you have to keep your core engaged and you have to maintain that rate of exhalation and just release a little bit of air at a time. So when she's singing the verse that we just listened to, it's a very simple melody and I really like the way that it's constructed. So you don't have any big interval jumps, right? It's all kind of dancing around the same note. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. I don't know if that's exactly the melody, but it was something similar to that, right? She does that twice, and then she goes up the third. Da, 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 da. No, first she goes to da, 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 and then she goes up to the fourth. Da, da. So she's slowly building, right? As we're getting to the chorus, the melody is ascending, and so that's giving it an increase in tension. And the thing that I like about this verse a lot is not only the quality of her voice when she's using that really breathy voice, and it's still pretty low. Yeah, so it's like da. It's an A4, which is pretty low. It's below middle C. And yet, I mean, she has a very low range, right? But she's using that breathy, disconnected tone. And usually we associate low voice with being like very connected, right? That your chest voice is really usually very loud and connected. So it's unusual to have this very, very low, light, disconnected tone. So that's very nice. And then there's also like a certain amount of tension in the accompaniment, the music, and it feels like even though it's not as heavy as the beginning, that it's like building to something. It's building to this release in the chorus. All right, sorry to pause it for so long. Let's continue. Very cool. So the chorus uses two things which I think are really cool. Well, more than two, but the first two that struck me is the bending that she's doing with her voice, right? That die, try. So she's sliding between those notes rather than die, try. And that part sounds very major, right? dun, 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 dun. And then it kind of switches to minor. Da-da, find your lonely spirit in life. Dun, 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 dun. So it goes from dun, 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 dun to dun, 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 which is interesting because you have this like harmonic melodic lift for the first half of the chorus, right? And then it comes down and sounds more depressed again on that minor part of the chorus. The third thing that I like is the hits of the drums and the guitar together, that like rhythmic da-da, da-da, da-da at the end of the chorus. All right, let's continue. Sorry, I just couldn't stop it because there wasn't like a good place with a pause. I didn't want to stop it in the middle of the solo. So I thought the guitar solo was really cool there. I really like the tone of the guitar and the bass. It's like, you know, when something has a clean tone and it's just so much more full and melodic sounding, and then when something is more of a tone like this, there is like a hollowness to it and it sounds much more mechanized and there's almost like a rattle in it, like a, you know, and it has like almost like a brittle sound to it, which makes it sound so much heavier. And also the tempo of this song is pretty slow and like dirgy, which makes it sound super heavy, but then the drums are very complex. And so that gives it like a lot of energy, you know? And she's kind of singing in a slow way and matching the tempo of the song, but then the drums and the guitar are kind of driving it, if that makes sense. I really liked at the end of the second chorus, when she flipped up, she was like, find your lonely spirit in love. Something like that. Or maybe it was at the end of the Die, where she like flipped up with her voice. She's always very inventive and experimental with her voice, which I really appreciate. I think a lot of singers play it safe. And she's got a lot of tricks in her bag, you know, and she uses all of them, and that's cool. She's not afraid to try different things. cool. Very, very cool. I really like that like delay. It was very rhythmic, you know, where it like sounds like it's repeating. I also liked in the guitar solo portion, there was like this phasing sound in the back, which sounded like very spacey and cosmic. And then I liked at the end where she like layered multiple vocals and they were like moving at different rates. So you got this like dissonance was created, you know, like you could hear the voices separating from each other and like not exactly in sync. That was a cool idea and effect. And there definitely was like a lot of dissonance too, like on the chorus, the die, try, the guitar goes up, right? It's like da na 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 na, but the vocal is the same. And the note that the guitar goes up to is very dissonant, right? And then the find your lonely, the underlying note in the guitar and the voice is also like very dissonant. So it creates a lot of like tension, right? Tension and release. Music is all about tension and release. So yeah, very, very cool. I think there's a lot in there. And I still feel like for some reason they remind me a little bit of Tool. And I'm curious to see if they would cite that as one of their influences, because there is something about the melodies and the music that just makes me think of Tool. And maybe that's totally off base, but I don't know. That's what it kind of like triggers in my brain and references. So I'd be curious if they are fans and if they would cite that as an influence. Anyways, hope you enjoyed my reaction. And again, happy belated birthday to Mike, friend of this channel and really cool, nice guy all around. So thank you again for the recommendation and I will see you guys here next time. And until then, take care and don't get food poisoning. Bye.